Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Journalist Talk. Today is the first episode of season 4. We're trying this video too if you're watching this through YouTube. Hi, you finally put a face to the name. And with me today, I have the myth, the legend, Max Osburn, NBC5 news reporter and anchor in Oregon. Hey, Max.
How you doing, Bea? Good to see you.
I'm doing great. You? How are you doing?
We're doing well, man. We're doing well, one day at a time. Learn something every day. Just keep it on the grind. You know how it is.
How we roll. That's how we roll. Very good. And as always, that's something that I'm never going to change in this podcast. Please give me and all my listeners a brief biography about yourself.
Definitely, yeah. So I'm Max. Sometimes I go by Maximus on air. I'll go by Maximus just because one of my old journalism professors actually said I should go by Maximus. So you might see me go by either or. But Max is completely fine as well. But I'm from Sacramento. Sacramento area. I'm from Roseville, little town. It's getting bigger, which is pretty nice. And then I moved down to Northridge in LA, where I studied at CSU Northridge, and I got a degree in broadcasting. And then immediately after that, I started my job here at KOBI-TV NBC5 here in Medford, Oregon. And I'm a MMJ part-time anchor, just whatever they need me to do, and I know how to do it. Pretty much I'm doing it.
Just rolling with it. We love
Oh
that.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And tell me, you said that you were from Sacramento area and then you already had to move to Northridge and now you moved to a different state. How was all this moving around for you? Are you very adaptable or just like homesick already?
Yeah, no, I mean it's a good question. I think one of the things that really drew Medford to me, or yeah, one of the things that was really kind of attractive to the idea of moving to Medford was just I just always wanted to stay on the West Coast, you know what I mean? When I was moving down to LA, I was fortunate enough to move with a lot of buddies of mine because a few buddies of mine went to CSUN. I was friends with a lot of like movie directors, and we all had this pipe dream of moving down to LA and making names for ourselves and everything like that. And which has been really fun. And I still have a lot of buddies there, and LA still has a very special place in my heart. You know what I mean? Um, and then moving to Oregon, I'm here by myself this time. You know what I mean? And that's been a bit of an adjustment, but I will say if you are a journalist and you're going to be working at a station and everything like that, and you're a little daunted about moving out of state or whatever it is, because most times you don't get to pick where you live, it picks you, you know what I mean, in a lot of scenarios. And so uh it might be a little daunting, but honestly, the people at your station are going through the exact same thing. You know what I mean? They know exactly what it's like. They've been through it too. One of my buddies, his name's Derek Strom. He's also an MMJ and sometimes a weather forecaster. He's a really talented guy. And yeah, he just reached out the first day and he was like, "Hey, I know how hard it can be to, find a bit of a group or a social group or whatever, And he's like, if you ever want to hang out, feel free to hang out." Molly Smith, our morning anchor, she reached out even days before I started working. Like she reached out and said if I wanted to grab some coffee and everything. So most of the time, at least in my experience, people from your station, they know exactly what you're going through, and they're gonna they're gonna extend a hand to you, And same thing for new journalists that are coming to your station. If you've been working there for a while, reach out that hand as well. We just had a guy, his name is Ben Blake. He's really cool producer dude, and I was like, dude, what are you into? He's into hiking. I'm like, dude, let's go on a hike. You know what I mean? So just trying to be there for everybody and everything like that, I feel like is how you just enjoy your job a little bit more.
That is really cool. I mean, socializing, communicating is something that we have to do. So that actually people do that. It's very fun to hear because sometimes it can be very hard. I
Mm.
I'll tell you that I have friends, like I've been here for 5 years. I have friends, but sometimes it's so hard to make new ones. And then sometimes like your friends move away and then like they go to other places. and they have like total different lives from what you are having right now, and it's hard sometimes, but
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
glad
yeah.
it was kind of smooth of a transition for you.
Thank you. Yeah. And us old friends of yours, Bea, we don't forget you. You're okay. Don't worry. We won't forget. So yeah,
Good to know. Now this is recorded for everybody.
old friends. Can't live without them.
Can't. I have to bring
Hmm.
them to my podcast. Yes. At least it's a way to catch up.
No,
I'll
definitely.
that that was a friend of mine from last season that I hadn't spoken or saw him like for 3 years. And then I was like, dude, what are you doing? Let's talk.
Definitely,
That
definitely.
is, my podcast brings everybody together. It's amazing.
Oh no, it's great. It's great. That which is why I've been vying so long to get on it. So I'm very, very ecstatic that I'm here today. So yeah,
Well, in
thank
your
you.
first episode, that's a responsibility, Max. It's on
Oh
your
yeah. Well, here we go.
And since we're talking about transition and being adaptable to new places, how was coming out of the school setting where, if you make a mistake is not that big of a deal and going into the industry?
Yeah, no, I mean, that was one of the big questions that I had because I was one of the students that actually never did an internship. And so I was a little scared of like how practical are my skills going to be. Um, and I think that's why the class Matadors, if you could take it, if you're a broadcast major, I would recommend taking Valley View News because while it's daunting, it's an 8 hour day sometimes, and you got to put a whole lot of work into it. It that alone is probably what got me. I know that class alone got me this job because of the work that I was able to put into that class, the things that I learned from that class. Also, Professor Herrera, who is a reporter for KTLA 5, uh, is just amazing. He's a great guy. Him and I always butt heads and go back and forth, and it's great. But he's always leaving us with something. And one thing that he did leave us with is that your first market, wherever you end up working, it's probably going to be like, you know, in the 150, market range or whatever it is, right? And he said that it's your first market, and that's the place where you should make your mistakes. I feel like a lot of journalists such as myself, can be a bit of a perfectionist, right, when it comes to our work. And so we might get pretty hard on ourselves when our work doesn't really turn out the way we want it to turn out. But it's our first market. We should be willing to make those mistakes and also welcome those mistakes so that we can learn from them. So that when we do move up to a top 70, top 50, maybe top 25 market later down the line, we already know how to adapt. We already know the mistakes that we've made and we've learned from them. Everything along those lines, man. And so I I mean it doesn't always like get you through, sometimes it's still daunting, you still think about it like, oh man, am I gonna mess up, today at work or whatever it is. But honestly, just hold on to the skills that you have, try and be as attentive as possible, and just hold on to that idea, don't be too hard on yourself because the job's already hard enough.
Well said. Well
Oh
said.
yeah.
You kind of ruined my next question, which would be
Oh yeah.
class like you think that helped you the most get your job or understanding something in journalism. Would you have like a second class to tell us that it was?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, well, there's just so many, honestly. Like, I really point to Valley View just because that was a lot of the hard skills of broadcast and actually building a broadcast, a news rundown, and everything like that, producing, anchoring, reporting, all that jazz. But, there were so many classes, so many professors. Like, they're all so great. And as you know, I know we have Tammy, we have Bender, we have all of these fantastic guys, Davis, who's no longer there, but was just a very, very pivotal, professor in my opinion. And I feel like there's so many like the introduction classes to broadcasting, a lot of the multimedia classes still, you got to keep up with your multimedia skills because that stuff will still while different stations might use different programs and everything like that, for the most part, the language of video editing is almost all the same. You know, there's audio, there's video, there's effects, there's transitions, all these different things. You got to just know the basics and keep those skills refined, uh, because they'll work with any software really. So yeah. Um, but in regards to just what specific classes, I think one thing was the KCSN shifts, which is where actually I met the lovely Bea Barros, was because she was my producer in the morning, like bright early in the morning. What was it like? What time would I come in? I know you would come in really early,
Yeah, it
but
would
I
come
would come in,
30, it would come like at 8.
yeah, like 8 o'clock. I don't know. That's really early for me. So yeah, I would come in at 8 o'clock, work 3 hours, and then I would anchor the radio show, the morning radio show, and it's like a 5 minute newscast, and it's nothing crazy. But I think I just remember getting so nervous every single time. Bea, I don't know if you know, but I would go to the bathroom almost every time before I would yes, before I would go on anchor the newscast. I would go to the bathroom and I would shadow box. I'm a big martial artist, and I know that I knew I was gonna bring that into this conversation somehow, but it was just something to get the nerves out. And to this day, I still have the nerves. To this day, I'm still going to the bathroom and I'm shadow boxing. You know what I mean? But I think that class, spending 3 hours with Bea and just learning the skills, nothing but the skills in front of you. Uh, that was another way to just kind of visualize how things are going to be in the future, and still use it to this day.
I'm happy I could help you. That is so nice.
Of course, man, of course.
So happy. Oh my gosh, that is great. And about the
Yeah.
boxing, everybody knew. I don't know if you know that, but everybody knew.
Did they? Ah, man. My
Yeah.
secret. No, but yeah.
But it's like, yeah, Max just like boxes in the
Dude, it was crazy. I would come out and I would be like kind of like out of breath, and you're like, what the heck?
you
What
know
is
what? Everybody has their own thing.
Oh yeah.
Before any show, either if I'm producing or if I'm anchoring, I am going to repeat the two intros that they say in the radio. Because that
Yes.
is like marked in my head already. So like I'm gonna be saying the same things. It became kind of like a mantra for me. Like
Mm,
the show is gonna go well. I'm gonna like hit every name, every
yes.
pronunciation. And it's like it's dumb and it can be annoying, but like it's my ritual. Like I have to say those words.
Oh, definitely. Definitely, dude. Everybody's got their own thing. Everybody's got their own thing. So yeah.
Oh yeah. That should be like a question that I should make to all.
Oh, that would be great. That would be a great
Uh,
question. Yeah. Look at
yeah.
me setting the trends. There we
So
go.
we're trying new things here today.
Look out for episode 2 where she asks this same question. Let's go.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So the next one,
Mhm.
it's kind of two in one, and I want you to go like as in depth as you want. How did you got into journalism? How it was introduced to you? Did you went after that? And why did you choose to follow this career?
That is a great question. And I'll try not to take super long, but in another lifetime in high school, I was actually pre-med. And yeah. I wanted to be a physical therapist and or in nursing. I was kind of debating between the two. And I was in this program called the Health Academy for sophomore to senior year, where we have very medically focused classes and everything. And we would go out, do clinicals, internship, and job shadow a whole lot. And I remember every time my instructor would pick us up from the hospital, she would ask everybody, did you guys have a good day? What did you guys see? And everybody would be like, oh, I got to see this really cool piece of medical technology, or I got to, help with this procedure, or I got to see this operation, or whatever it was. But for me, I was like, yeah, I had a good day. I just had a nice talk with a patient. You know what I mean? And I felt like it was always that communication with others, interpersonal conversations with other people that I was really drawn to. And so I was like, okay, maybe it's not the medical aspects that I'm really, is my passion. It's just people, and just talking to people, telling stories and hearing stories and everything like that. And I always had a media background ever since I was a kid. My brothers and I, we would make movies. Obviously, I mentioned, a lot of my buddies were movie makers. And so I got to help them out a lot. And so I always had a bit of a media background, and I was like, okay, talking and media background, what do we got? And I was like, okay, out came journalism. And, you know, I started out here in news and everything like that. It's probably not something I want to do forever, but, I was just so grateful. And the reason why I think I stuck with it when I changed my major, I was, I think I don't know. I've always been about that ideal, or just, I've been a big dreamer all my life, I feel like. And, always trying to go for things, and especially if things scare me. Like that's the number one thing, is if I'm scared of something or something makes me uncomfortable, I almost want to do it more. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's the martial artist in me. I know I have to bring it up again, but being uncomfortable, or trying to be comfortable in an uncomfortable situation is just one of my goals. And trying to develop my skills to be better. And, one thing that I tell people a whole lot is that one of my biggest fears is actually public speaking. And a
No,
lot of people are like, yeah, right. Like a lot of people are like, what? That's weird. But it really is. And it has always been ever since I was a kid. But because I got such a thrill out of it, because I felt, like I was bettering myself for facing my fears, like that just made me want to do it more and more. And every time I go out and anchor, my hands are the sweatiest. My heart rate is going, but that's what it's all about, man. Like I would hate to be doing some brain dead work, where I don't have to think about anything. I just drag and drop and type and whatever it is. But for me, for my job, what I love is that I get to be on my toes. I get to, try and better the way that I talk, and yeah, just try and face my fears. So yeah, one thing that I do notice about myself that I'm still actively trying to work on is I always say, So you probably heard that like
you know,
like 90 times. Exactly. You probably heard that 90 times throughout this podcast already. But yeah.
it's okay. It's better than
Yeah. There you go. There you
better. It makes my editing so much easier.
go. Definitely.
Sometimes when I am speaking, I often use like, but
Hmm.
it's because when it's not your first language, like becomes a space that you can think whenever you're talking. I don't
Oh,
know.
definitely.
Me.
Like a crutch. Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Verbal crutch. No, I'm the same way.
Max, you're going so fast. You're talking about like questions that I have here, okay? Literally after the interview, I'm sorry you guys are not gonna see that, but on my cheat sheet, the first thing that I have under your name is martial arts. Chill out. We're gonna talk about it. Okay?
Let's do it.
We're gonna talk about it.
This is what the people wanted to hear. Exactly.
I know it. I would get at least one boxing, one UFC stuff for you to do every time that you were on the radio. I know your passion for it,
Oh, yes. Oh,
but
yes.
you said something. I was gonna drag that question towards more for the end of the interview, but since you said that you don't see yourself doing journalism forever. I was gonna ask, like, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? So with that, can you kind of mix it up and
Yeah,
tell us?
definitely. So, yeah, I mean, we're always trying to stay adaptable. We're always trying to, take opportunities and everything like that. But, in the next 5 years, I have to finish up my 2.5 year contract here at Kobe, KOBI TV. But as soon as that is up, I would love to transition to a combat sports reporting or analyst anchoring job. And that would be my dream. That would be my dream because, as I said, and it's no secret, martial arts means so much to me, and it's bettered me as a person. I think it's the vehicle to a better life. And, combat sports has taught me, so much about myself. I had my first fight in June, before I left to go to Oregon, and my my workers, my boss, everybody, they were like, don't mess up your face. You're going to be on TV, right? And I was like, okay, well, hopefully I don't mess up my face. And it was a great fight. It was one of the scariest things I'd ever done. Nose was bloody and, all beaten up and everything like that. Got my licks in. He got his licks in. And, I just feel like I managed to push myself to a place where, I hadn't been before because I had never been a confrontational kid. I've been always like kind of friendly and always tried to keep to myself and everything like that. And sometimes, to a fault. And martial arts is something that is continuing to bring me out of those ways. And so I would love to work one day I want to be a commentator. That would be my dream job, is to be a commentator for boxing fights, UFC fights, Muay Thai fights, all that, all the above. Anything that I can kind of sink my teeth into, that to me is fulfilling.
All right. Two questions before we go to martial arts. Okay.
Okay, please. Yes. Yes.
So far, you've done a lot of anchoring and reporting. Which one do you prefer?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, both of them have their ups, both of them have their downs. And that's just how it is with every job. You gotta accept the good with the bad, or the less fun with the more fun. And I'll start with reporting because that was what I always wanted to do, from the get-go, was just report, be out there on the field because I hated the idea of being stuck to a desk. And so it's a lot of fun when you're an MMJ. As everybody knows, you're kind of like a one-man band, and you're your own cameraman, you're your own editor, you're your own, interviewer, everything. You know what I mean? Like you do pretty much all your work. And so that part can be kind of stressful. But if you are a perfectionist like me, excuse me, if you are a perfectionist like me, it's a little liberating because you have control of your story and how it's told and how you want the shots to look and everything like that. But also, if you make a mistake, it's all on you, which is to me actually is a positive. I would rather it be on me than somebody else. I like the mistakes that I make to be in my control because that means that I can work on them next time. So reporting is fun, but I gotta say that yes, I do prefer anchoring because I love to just sit and be able to talk and like try and exude as much as my personality that I can into these stories. And I know how much it means to tell these stories. You know what I mean? Like I do view my job as a bit of a privilege, and also I view my job as as giving back to the community in a way, because when you tell these stories, when you start out in such a small little station and everything like that, most times you're in this very small localized area. And this small town here in Medford, like people know people, stories happen and people know about it, and people come up to me every now and then, they'll recognize me and they'll, thank me for a story that I did and everything like that, or, said I did really good. Telling a story in particular. And, that's just really fulfilling, and it's very humbling, and I wish I could, reach out to everybody that, those stories have impacted, and kind of went back to reporting, but anchoring in general is probably my favorite just because of the thrill that I get from it. When you're reporting, like maybe you'll do a live shot, maybe you'll do a live front, but for the most part, everything is edited and ready to go. But anchoring, as you all know, it's live, it's on the fly. You got to just, if you mess up, you just got to keep going. You just got to keep going. You got to be willing to pull yourself together. There's no break outside of the commercial breaks. You know what I mean? So you got to roll with the punches. Another little martial arts for you. But yeah,
We're finally here, martial arts. Yay.
here we go. Yes,
Here we go.
can't wait.
I see you doing stories. I've seen you do stories when you were a student about martial arts packages at the radio. I know that you want to comment on that, but how do you feel of being able to convert your two passions into one? Because that's kind of what I'm doing right now on my master's. I'm talking about books. Literally, all I do after,
Dude.
Working and studying is reading.
Yeah, no, I love seeing your book reviews on your stories. Those are fun.
I'm so late on that thing because I don't have time to do it anymore, but
There you go. That's great. That's great. But yeah, great question. And it's something that I think we should all fight for as reporters. Like Yeah, a lot of times maybe you'll work in a station where it's more like assignment based. I know that one of our stations here in the Rogue Valley, there's Channel 12, who's technically our rivals, but we all get along very well. As you'll come to find, like you should be making friends, not enemies in this journalism world. Um, and so one of the guys, he's an anchor. His name's Damien. Great guy. People always confuse us. I don't think we really look alike, but they always confuse us. But he's a great guy. I love him. He went to Washington State and he came here and you know what he was telling me is just yeah, just that you should be fighting for those stories because there's sometimes stations where he just it's just assigned stuff. Like they don't get to pitch stuff sometimes, and sometimes that will happen. But we should be fighting for those stories, and that's typically what I've been doing when it comes to these, martial arts stories. Like I think I'm pretty much the only martial arts fan, really, that like true and true like martial artists at the station. And I know my boss Craig, like he's a great guy, and he's always willing to hear out story ideas. But you know, eh, if you're just unfamiliar with martial arts, you're gonna think to yourself like, okay, well, why? Is it really a news story? Yada yada yada. And I get it. You have to ask those questions, but what I have found through doing these stories is that there really is this untapped community of fight fans here in the Rogue Valley, which I was very surprised of. I was very worried about moving from LA, where martial arts is literally everywhere, to Medford, Oregon, where I don't know anything about anything here. But I'm surprised to find that there's actually a pretty good martial arts scene here, and it's a story. Those are stories that I want to tell now. I want to reach out to that community because now I want to be part of that community now, and uh, what it means to kind of put the two together is it means so much just because when I film those stories, I'm like, wow, I actually got paid to do that. I actually got paid to hit a speed bag or shoot a combination or whatever it was. Like all that means so much, but you have to fight for it. You have to fight for those stories, and you have to know what makes a story. Like I can't just do like 10 features on boxers, you know what I mean, or 10 features on just fights. Yeah, as much as I would love to. You got to find the stories, look for the news story in it. There will be transgender boxers, there will be boxers making a comeback, fighters making a comeback, after being injured, or there will be fundraisers going on. One thing that my martial arts school did was that we had a kickathon every December, and we did 1,000 kicks, and we would donate money and raise money for the Breathe Like a Boss Foundation, which is helping those with breathing issues and getting medical equipment as well as like physical therapy equipment and stuff like that. So that was really cool, and just telling those stories means so much. To be able to, as you said, just converge the two is one of the big highlights of the job.
And you know what? You make this story more interesting, more um dynamic because you are actually doing something. And it's something that we learn here at Season. We learn in the broadcasting classes. Like, don't be the reporter that is just like this. Be the reporter showing around, moving something, having like an object with you. And you do that. You move around. You have like the boxing thing. You play around. I see that on your stories. And honestly, I'm proud to see that. And it's something that you enjoy doing, is your work. And, people are getting impacted in a good way with those stories. So I'm just here to congratulate you.
I appreciate that, Bea. I appreciate that. But yes, that is exactly it. You got to be demonstrative. You can't just be, as you said, the reporter just standing there with a mic. As you can see behind me, that whole mess, like we've all seen that. Anybody could do that. What sets you apart? You gotta show your passion, And for me, it's martial arts. And so every time I have an opportunity, I try and do a demonstrative stand-up. Even with stories that I'm not super passionate with, just always try to do something. Try to get the viewers engaged.
Yeah, that's great. Hey listeners, I have a great news for you. I'm here to incentivize you to create your own podcast just like me. I couldn't think of a better partner than Buzzsprout, and I recommend them for you as a beginner in podcasting. Buzzsprout can help you with publishing your own podcast in every major platform such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. They also automatically publish on your personalized website, and they give you all the statistics in detail that you want. To start your own podcast and to win a $20 Amazon gift card, follow the instructions on the link in my show notes. If I can do it, you can do it too. Good luck on creating your very own podcast. Right now, we're going to shift towards a more nicer topic. Like, it's going to be mainly focused on games or whatever. Let's call it like game time with Bea Barros, whatever.
Let's go. Game time with Bea Barros.
First, I'm just going to talk about the little games that you do on your story when you take off the audio and you're like, what it looks like that I'm saying. I love playing those games, and I think it was such a good idea, so engaging. How did you come up with that idea?
That's a great question. Yeah, so what you're talking about is I would post on my story a little clip of me presenting a story or doing a stand-up or whatever it was, anchoring behind the desk, and I would use the Instagram tool where I just put music over it. So you can't hear what I'm talking about. And I would cover up the banner, the little logo or the lower thirds, right? That kind of gives you the detail of the story. I would cover that up with these questions, and they're pretty easy questions. Like, it's pretty easy to deduce which one's the right answer. I would ask what I'm talking about, and it would be the wildest, 3 answers that you could think of, and then the fourth one being the correct answer, pretty much almost all the time. And I just thought it was a good way to get the story out there. You know what I mean? Like, we see headlines all the time, and a lot of headlines can be good. There is an art to making a headline, without being too clickbaity and everything like that. There is an art to making a headline while still being truthful and faithful to the journalism ethics and being, factual, right? But sometimes I have trouble with that. So I love to just, come out with the absurd stuff, the absurd headlines, like I would be like, oh, this is the site where aliens touched down and made contact with our team, or this is where Bigfoot was found. And, just come up with these absurd headlines where it's like, clearly he's not talking about that. And so
sometimes I like to put the absurd one just because it's
funny.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Favorite.
I feel like those are my favorite people, are the ones that they know obviously which one's the right one, but I love the wrong answers only type of vibe. But either way, which one's the right one because of the absurd answers I gave before that. And so in a way, I'm still sharing the story. It's still like, an interesting story. You get the slug right there. You know what it's about, but you're engaged because you're also reading these absurd other slugs before it. And so that's just something I have a whole lot of fun with, when I was when I was growing up, I was just never a very like news watcher, you know what I mean? And I was never always politically engaged as much as I should have. And now obviously that's changed because I have to be. But I just feel like I had to play a lot of catch up when I came to CSUN and understanding politics and how things worked and everything like that. So having a little bit fun with the news topics and stuff like that is, that's something I enjoy a lot. I'm glad that you enjoy that. I'm glad that I've heard people say that, it's pretty fun. So we'll keep it going. We'll keep it going. I got a little story highlight if you ever visit my Instagram. Oh yeah.
And now the actual game that we're gonna do here is,
Please.
You're gonna tell me a myth, a truth, and a half truth now that you're actually in the industry. Super subjective,
Wow.
but a myth, a truth, and a half truth.
Okay. Let me think about this. Okay, so a myth, a truth, and a half truth. Okay, let's start with truth because I feel like that's the easiest.
Okay.
Truth is, and of course you have to be kind of careful, because of the stations you work for and everything like that. But I would say one truth is, and this one's just an easy one, but yeah, and I already did before this, but you're gonna have an absurdly like bad sleep schedule. Like a lot of the times you're gonna have an absurdly bad sleep schedule. And you're gonna feel like you never really get it down. Maybe that's just for me, but honestly, I've talked to so many journalists at this point that I just feel like that's just the truth. That is just the truth. Especially if you're on the morning shifts, if you're on the late shifts, if you have to cover for somebody else. Sometimes what you'll do is that you'll work all the way to like 12 a.m. and then come back to work the next day at 10 a.m. That's happened. I've seen that happen. Luckily, I have not experienced it yet because I feel like I would be a corpse. But that is definitely a truth. So try and do your best to, try and get a healthy sleep schedule. Everything that you can do, a healthy lifestyle is important when, in any case, just in general. And then, a myth. Man, that's tough. That is tough because I think I was lucky enough to surround myself with people that were very blunt about the industry. But I think one myth, man, it's tough. It's tough, Bea. It's tough. Have you played this game with other people?
No, completely new.
Whoa, this is new? Oh man, dang it. Okay. So I gotta come up with something good.
I told you I'm trying new things today.
Okay, you know what?
Listeners enjoy it because I plan to do this game with everybody. Like I said,
Oh
it's
yeah,
a subjective game. So I want to feel like everybody's myth, truth, and half truth.
Yes. No, this is perfect. This is perfect. And I did just think of one for half truth. And this one's a little bit more on the drama side. So if you love your sip of tea, feel free to take with this what you will. But one thing that Professor Davis taught us. Oh man, I hope this isn't bad, but that you might have romantic interactions with your coworkers, and you might see a lot of romantic interactions between your coworkers because you work at a station. Everybody's pretty outgoing. If you're a reporter, obviously you spend a whole lot of time together. Because we're working 8 hours plus. A lot of times we'll work overtime, and you'll be moving to towns where you don't know anybody else. So you kind of latch on to these coworkers and everything like that. And it hasn't happened for me. I'm that's not in my world. But one thing that Professor Davis said was that, you might definitely see it. You might see it. You might see it happen. It might even happen to you. And I'll tell you right now, yeah, it definitely happens. Not everywhere. It's a bit of a half truth, a bit of a half truth.
And a new girlfriend soon enough.
But yeah, man, that you see it happen. You see it happen. I've seen it happen in my station. I've seen it happen in other stations, and it's true. It's true. Half true. Half true. Not all the time, but yes.
All right.
And then the myth.
The hardest one.
I am the myth. So let's see. One thing. Ooh, okay. Yeah. One thing that I thought I would be doing a whole lot of was I was just going to be laser focused on the police scanner and just like, ready to go at any second, and maybe that's because I'm at a smaller market, granted, not a whole lot happens, knock on wood. I would imagine in places in other municipalities and cities like LA, that would probably happen a whole lot, maybe. But I really thought it was going to be the whole one Jake Gyllenhaal movie, what is it called, Nightcrawler, where he's just constantly listening to the police radio, going in, and doing some unethical stuff, right? But for us, a lot of times we get our stories just through press releases, or we'll see something on Facebook like, oh, we have this event going on, or they're doing a charity for this group, or a press release like, okay, state representatives going to try and pass this bill or whatever it is. That's mainly, I would say we get 85% of our news like that. Maybe even 90, honestly. We might even bump it up to 90. The other 10% is like stuff that we'll pitch, or yes, things happen kind of out of the blue. But honestly, it doesn't happen as much as you would think, especially in your first market, where you have smaller cities. So yeah.
Yeah. See, you made it. You made it to this new.
I found it. I found the three. Yes, I love this game. This is a good idea. This is a good idea.
Thank you. I thought yesterday at 10:30 p.m. when I was writing your questions.
There we go. I love it. I love it. You know, I love games. So there we go.
But now we're heading towards the end of our conversation. And to end like on a nice tone, can you tell us your favorite story so far? One as a student and one as a professional in the industry.
Yeah, man. So obviously martial arts means a lot to me. And one story that I really enjoyed telling as a student was this one package I did about the Martial Arts History Museum. And this is where I got to rub it all in Professor Davis's face. Because, there is a bit of a stigma with martial arts and, combat sports with the idea that it's just human cockfighting and it's just violence and there's no real value to it and everything like that. But I got to do this story on this martial arts history museum where this great guy, who was the curator of the museum, got to tell me a lot of the history and a lot of the roots and the values and the traditions of martial arts and where it all really stems from. It all has very Eastern philosophies still tied to them. And I practice Muay Thai, and Muay Thai uh, is very, very like culturally deep. It's the national sport of Thailand. I went out to Thailand and I trained in Thailand, which was really, really cool to experience that. And I got to share that a little bit, you know what I mean? Of just how martial arts is not just violence. Like it's about respect, it's about discipline. So much goes into it and so much comes out, and it's just a vehicle for a better life, as I said. It teaches you humility because if you lie, if you talk a big game, and you can't walk the walk, then you get beat up. Like that's just how it is. You don't do well if you try and fake your skills. You have to be, legit about your skills. So that's one story that I was very proud of as a student.
Because I remember seeing
Say that
like
again.
your packages from Valley View on the radio.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It might have been one of those ones.
Yeah,
Definitely, definitely. We did run it for Valley View, I think twice, which was pretty cool.
that's nice.
So that was a really cool story to tell. But here as a professional in this industry, obviously I love the martial arts stories that I've worked on, local boxers and everything like that. But one story that I felt very fulfilled with was there was an apartment fire here in Oregon, Southern Oregon. They kind of joke around. They say we have 5 seasons, not four, and the fifth season is fire season. And it gets pretty bad. Like it's smoky. There's fires in every single direction and everything like that. Um, but one time there was this apartment fire. It displaced, I think, like 9 people, and there was nothing else besides that. We had no other tips beside that. Like we talked to Medford Fire Department, but they were, they're very busy during fire season. So, it can be hard to grab an interview for something like an apartment fire. Not that it's less important, but they just have their hands full, right? Um, and so my boss, he told me, okay, we got to just go out there, knock on some doors, try and do your best, find someone to talk to. And that can be very nerve-wracking as a reporter. I'm sure other people can relate to that, where it's like, oh, I don't want to go out and, knock on doors and talk to random people because I feel like I'm intruding their space, their time, everything. But I go out there and luckily I found these 2 people, hanging around this apartment building where it was very much destroyed, very badly damaged and everything like that. And I walked up to them and they were very kind and they wanted to talk and everything like that. And she was very emotional, and it was just it was I like kind of in a weird way I kind of like telling this really sad stories because I try and do my best to comfort them and empathize with them, and let them know that if they have a GoFundMe or something that they need to get out there, that we can do that for them. And that's exactly what happened. They had a GoFundMe. This couple, they had a GoFundMe as well that were also affected and displaced by the fire, and they didn't have homeowners insurance. So we got to do that, and we helped them raise money, and got them in living situations and stuff. So I feel like those types of stories, if I could just tell those 2 types of stories like all my life, like that would be it. That would be set.
Yeah. It's really nice to hear all the stories. Last season I had Andrea here and she was talking about how she got involved with a lot of missing persons case. and how it was something that she ended up enjoying doing. Not because like it's enjoyable, of course, because it's
Right,
a very
right.
serious situation, but it's something that she felt good at doing and helping and like broadcasting, like we're gonna find this person, we found this person. Sometimes it's not the
Yeah.
best shape that we found a person, but
Hmm.
yeah, I'm
No,
really happy.
definitely, definitely.
Yeah, those
Thank
are
you, Bea.
very
Thank
good
you. Appreciate it.
stories. Those are good stories.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. And to finish our conversation, the basically favorite outro, do you have any advice for students getting out of school right now and getting into their first market?
Ooh, yeah. I mean, there's so much, right? There's so many things that I would say do that I didn't. You know what I mean? Or don't do what I did, you know? But that's kind of what it is. You have to, as I said, take the good with the bad. You have to not be afraid to fail because that's part of success. You know, it's not the opposite, it's part of it. Uh, if you want to succeed, you got to fail. And I know, as I said, like a lot of us are probably perfectionists. A lot of us are probably hard on ourselves. Uh, but you gotta just love the journey. You know what I mean? You gotta love the journey. Like I didn't think I would end up here in Medford, Oregon, and I don't want to stay here for the rest of my life, obviously, and I feel like that's the case with a lot of people that start out in their first markets. But you got to just love the journey. You got to be part of it. You got to enjoy every little step, the things that lead to those goals. You got to enjoy that part. When it's failing, when it's, coming up short, when it's going somewhere that maybe you don't want to go, or maybe you're doing something that you don't exactly want to do. But, you know, as I said, like this is news and I don't necessarily want to do it forever. And it's not necessarily my passion, I would say, but I know that public speaking and talking on a camera, doing camera work, media work, all that sort of stuff, that alone is like so fulfilling to me that I can't even imagine working another job. You know what I mean? Like this is 10 times better than like any of my retail jobs that I had beforehand. You know what I mean? And you just got to hold on to those little values, those little things that will end up keeping you going. And uh, I would say just try and fall in love with the journey. Try and fall in love with the journey, because it's not all going to be good, not all going to be bad, but you just got to take it as for what it is. And if you just focus, one quote that I will I will leave us with is that the man who loves to walk will walk further than the man who loves the destination. If you just love the journey, if you just love walking, the goals just happen as like a side effect, you know. If you just love to get that one thing, that one little, destination or whatever, like it's a hard battle. It's a hard battle. Like how much are you willing to go through? But if you just love, you know, figuring stuff out, failing, trying again, all that sort of stuff, I promise you, you'll probably go farther. You have to find the love in it. So yeah, that's my biggest advice, I would say.
Wow, I'll change my whole mindset. Dang,
There you go, man.
going for the
Trying to
journey
drop a little something.
now.
Yeah, man. Just the journey. Just the journey. We're all on it. We all have our own.
Well
So yeah.
said. Yeah, really good. Wow. Congrats, Max.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
And
Thank you, sister.
thank you so much for coming to Journalist Talk. I know it was your dream, but
It
I
was. It really was.
have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm finally glad to join my peers of Lupita, Andrea, all these folks, So thank you so much, Bea, for reaching out. I really appreciate it. And as you said, it's just a way for us to connect, reconnect, catch up. So I'm glad to see you're doing well and still doing what you want to do. And as I said, love the journey and you'll get there, man. You'll get there. Like I love that you're doing books. I love that you're doing books for your thesis. That's so awesome.
Yeah, I will show you later.
Definitely, man.
For
Definitely.
all of my listeners, thank you so much for being here today with me and Max. If you're seeing the video, we're waving bye to you right now. Max, wave bye bye. And if you're listening just to us, thank you so much for also being here. Don't forget to check the social media and everything else that is going to be in the footnotes. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.